They found Caleb Myers standing barefoot in the snow, 13 miles past the tree line. His feet were black with frostbite. His lips had been sewn shut with pine needles. And his eyes weren't human anymore. Most people had never heard of Willow Creek, Colorado. It wasn't the kind of town that showed up on tourist maps. A patch of cabins, a diner that closed by 6, and one gas station where the pump still had a flip counter. Locals liked it that way, quiet, familiar, safe so long as you followed one rule. Never go past the pines. People laughed when they first heard it. City folks thought it was just mountain superstition. But folks who'd grown up in Willow Creek didn't laugh. They remembered the stories, the warnings, the missing hikers whose camps were found abandoned, fires still warm, the park ranger who vanished just 5 feet off the trail, the old man who used to talk to the trees until he walked into them and never came back. So when 4 college kids from Denver rolled into town one chilly October morning with a jeep full of gear and cocky smiles, no one said a word. They watched them from porch swings and diner booths as the group loaded up their backpacks, hiked up the edge of the forest trail, and disappeared into the woods. Their names were Caleb Myers, Renee Harmon, Tyler Kane, Joe Linhart 21, full of adrenaline and podcast ghost stories. They were never seen again. 3 days later, the Jeep was still parked at the trailhead. Sheriff Walt Lawson stood beside it, arms crossed, staring at the layer of frost on the hood. No tire tracks, no footprints. No sign anyone had come back. He radioed in the missing persons report. It wasn't the first time he'd done that. A search team was pulled together, just 3 volunteers willing to cross the pine line. Tommy Griggs, a former MT who knew the mountain like the back of his hand. Anna Gable, a county wildlife biologist with nerves of steel. And Mike Trent, who ran the hardware store and had hunted the area since he was 12. They packed light but smart thermal gear, satellite radio, food for 5 days. Anna brought flares. Tommy brought a hunting rifle. Mike brought 2 dogs, 1 old bloodhound, and a younger mutt with a nose like radar. They set out just after dawn. Crossing the pines, the line wasn't marked by signs or fences. It didn't need to be. The forest just changed. Behind them, the woods were dense but familiar birdsong, pine scent, the crunch of needles underfoot. But once they stepped past the pine line, everything shifted. It got quieter, not silent dead. No birds. No bugs. Even the wind seemed to stop. The trees were too tall. Too straight. Too still. Their bark dark as charcoal. Their limbs knotted like arthritic fingers. It felt like being watched. Mike muttered something about the old stories, and no one laughed. They hiked 6 miles that day. Around dusk, they set up camp near a frozen creek. The fire flickered low. The dogs didn't eat. They just sat alert, staring into the trees. That's when Anna looked up and said, "Where the hell is the moon?" The sky was cloudless, but no stars, no moon. Just black like the world had ended above their heads. First night, they barely slept. At some point after midnight, a sound rolled through the trees low and drawn out like a train in the distance. Only it wasn't a train. It was too deep. Too hollow. The dogs whimpered and curled up under Mike's jacket. No one spoke. They just sat in the dark, listening, waiting for the sun to come back. Day 2, they found a backpack caught high in a tree. Easily 20 feet off the ground, tangled in the branches like it had been thrown there, Anna climbed up and got it down. Inside were a half-eaten granola bar, a dented water bottle, and a leather-bound notebook with Renee scribbled on the cover. The last page was smeared with dirt and sweat. It read, "The trees move when we aren't looking. Tyler thinks it's just nerves, but I know what I saw. They're getting closer." They pushed on. That afternoon, Tommy spotted footprints leading away from the main trail barefoot, spaced wide like someone was running. They followed them for almost a mile until they just stopped. No sign of a fall. No turn. just an end. They set up camp early that night. The howling came again. Closer this time. Not wolves, not wind. Something else, something bigger. Day 3, just after noon, they found Caleb. He was standing on a frozen pond, shirtless despite the freezing temperature. His arms hung limp at his sides. His head was tilted just enough to be wrong. "Caleb," Tommy called out, no reaction. Anna raised her binoculars, her breath caught. His mouth. From a distance, it looked like he was smiling. But as they moved closer, they saw the truth. His lips were sewn shut with pine needles, not thread. Needles pushed in and twisted, woven like stitches by something that didn't care about pain. And still, he was grinning. When Tommy stepped forward, Caleb bolted fast and silent, crashing into the woods with unnatural speed. Too fast for someone barefoot in the snow. They chased him, screamed his name. He vanished between the trees. That night, he came back. They were huddled by the fire when one of the dogs started growling. Mike grabbed his rifle. Anna turned her flashlight toward the trees. Caleb stood just beyond the firelight, barefoot, shirtless, lips still sewn shut. He didn't move, didn't blink. He just watched. Mike raised the gun, and Caleb was gone, vanished like smoke. They didn't sleep after that. The disappearances began next morning. One of the dogs was gone. The leash was still there, stacked clean. No tracks, no blood. Then it was Tommy. He'd stepped away to take a leak behind the ridge. 10 minutes tops. They found his boot near a ring of rocks, arranged in a spiral. His sock was still inside the boot. His foot wasn't. Mike wanted to head back. Anna agreed. But when they tried to retrace their steps, everything had changed. The compass spun wildly. Landmarks were gone. "We're lost," Mike said. "No," Anna whispered, staring into the dark between the trees. "We're not lost. We've been trapped." They tried hiking back the way they came, but the woods wouldn't let them. Every path curved in on itself. The train worked subtly, like they were walking in circles on a moving floor. The compass spun. The sun never seemed to move. Time twisted in the trees. By noon, Mike and Anna had passed the same deadlock 4 times. "We marked that bark," Mike muttered, pointing to the X he'd carved. "There's no way. We're not just lost, this place is playing with us." Anna didn't say a word. She just kept walking, eyes scanning the woods, like something was about to burst out between the trunks, because something was. That night, they set no fire. The flare gun was clutched in Anna's lap. Mike kept his rifle trained on the dark. The second dog didn't make it through the night. They found its collar sitting in the middle of camp, warm to the touch, the metal tags softly rattling in the still air. No blood, no tracks. Just the collar, and that same low howling from deeper in the woods. The cabin, the next day, Anna spotted at a cabin through the mist. It was half-rotted, nestled between black pine trunks. No path leading to it, no windows. Just a warped door and a slanted roof crested with moss. A single chimney puffed thin smoke, even though no one had seen fire in days. Mike was cautious. It's a trap. Anna pushed open the door. Inside, the walls were covered in names, carved into the wood. Hundreds of them scratched and deep, overlapping and frantic. Dates beside them, some as old as 1913, some from last week. There was a mattress in the corner, soaked red. A metal pot still steaming on the coals of an unseen fire. But what made both of them stop cold was the mirror hanging on the far wall. It didn't reflect them. Instead, it showed Caleb, standing in the woods, eyes black, mouth still sewn, grinning wider and wider until the mirror shattered. Night 4, they didn't sleep. They couldn't, because now something followed them just out of view. Every time they turned, they caught glimpses, a shadow with antlers, branches moving without wind, a whisper that wasn't either of their voices, By now, Anna's skin had gone pale, her eyes sunken. "There's something old in these woods," she said. "Something that feeds on people like us. It lures us in with voices, memories, fear. And once we cross the line, it owns us." Mike didn't disagree. They were running out of food, and the trees were closing in tighter every hour. He thought about shooting a flare, but part of him felt like it wouldn't go up. It'd just vanish into that black sky. That night, Mike awoke to find Anna gone. No sign of struggle, just her flare gun lying neatly beside his sleeping bag. And across the clearing, Caleb. He stood beside a tree, no longer smiling. Instead, he raised a hand and pointed to the pines. The final day, Mike didn't think. He just ran, no plan, no direction. Just away from Caleb, from the cabin, from whatever had taken Anna. He tore through thorns and branches, lungs burning, eyes watering from the cold. Hours passed. Or minutes. He couldn't tell anymore. And then the trees began to thin. Light broke through the canopy, the pine line. He stumbled across it like a drowning man breaching the surface of water. The birds were singing again. The air felt real. The sky blue. Sheriff Lawson found him at dawn, lying face down near the trailhead, his face frozen in a blank, exhausted stare. 2 days later, Mike sat in the town clinic, wrapped in blankets, sipping weak coffee. He didn't speak for hours. Finally, when pressed, he gave the only words he could manage. "There's something out there. It watches from the trees. It takes you piece by piece. If you go too far, you forget who you are. Then it makes you like them, like Caleb." They never found Anna or Tommy or the dogs. But 3 days after Mike came back, the frost melted near the trailhead, just enough to reveal footprints in the snow. Barefoot, human, heading out of the woods. 1 week later, Willow Creek went quiet. People stopped hiking, stopped walking their dogs near the forest. Some boarded up their cabins and left. Others whispered about closing the trail for good. But no one ever did. Because that's the thing about old places like Willow Creek. Some rules are warnings. Others are traps. And deep in the woods, past the line of twisted black pines, something ancient waits. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't forgive. And now it knows your name. The end